My neighbor kept calling the cops on my kids, so I made her house unsellable. My neighbor, Mrs. Daniels, called 911 like it was her personal hotline. Monday, she reported my kids for trespassing because their ball went in her yard. Wednesday, she called the cops because my autistic son was making noise in our own backyard. Friday, she called saying the kids were in danger because they were playing tag. The 911 operator probably recognized her voice better than her own family did. Things got worse as spring turned into summer, and her calls went from annoying to actually dangerous. First, she called CPS and said we left our kids alone outside. I was sitting right there on the porch with a book when the social worker showed up. They closed the case right away, but people had already started talking about us. 2 weeks later, during my daughter's birthday party, she called the fire department about a gas leak. 5 fire trucks showed up with their sirens going and scared all 12 kids at the party. The firefighters didn't find anything, but she went on Facebook saying we were probably making drugs. The worst thing happened in July when my autistic son had a meltdown in our yard. She called 911 and said a child was being beaten. The cops showed up ready for a domestic violence call and found me hugging my upset kid. Officer Martinez said something about her false reports, but nothing happened to her. She started calling during my work Zoom meetings on purpose. Other neighbors told me she kept notebooks full of made-up complaints with dates and everything. She actually bragged to people about making families like ours want to move away. Everything went crazy on a Tuesday in August when I got a letter from her lawyer wanting $15,000. She said we caused her emotional distress even though she was the one who called 911 53 times. I tried to talk to her like a normal person, but she said she'd add harassment to the lawsuit. That same day, my autistic son had his first friend from therapy come over to play. While the 2 kids were quietly playing with Legos, she called about suspicious people in my yard. Police cars surrounded my house and both 7-year-olds were terrified. My son's friend was so scared he wet his pants. His parents said he couldn't come back to our house anymore. I held my son while he cried and asked why the mean lady hated him. That night, I saw her house was for sale online and the listing talked about what a quiet neighborhood it was. I spent the next week looking at real estate websites and realized she really needed to sell fast. She'd hired a fancy realtor and paid for staging, which meant she wanted top dollar. Her listing kept talking about how quiet and family-friendly the street was. I figured out her house sale was her weak spot since she needed us gone to sell it. Every time someone came to look at her house was a chance to show them the normal kid noise she complained about. I made a group chat and found out she'd been doing this to 5 other families with kids. We looked up the noise laws and found out we could make normal sounds until 10 at night. Kids playing outside during the day was totally legal and protected. I figured out when her showings were and got the other families to coordinate legal activities. Her first open house started at 9 on Saturday and I started mowing at 7. My kids played basketball while the Johnsons worked on their motorcycle and the Garcias practiced violin. Mrs. Daniels texted everyone begging us to stop, but 3 buyers left without even going inside. The next week, I scheduled my son's occupational therapy in the backyard during her afternoon showings. We put up a new basketball hoop right at the property line and had games going all the time. When she had 5 families coming for a Thursday evening showing, we threw a barbecue. 12 kids were playing freeze tag while parents hung out and talked. Her texts got more and more desperate as her showings failed. First, she wrote, "Please stop, then I'll drop the lawsuit, then I'm begging you." We just kept playing basketball and living our normal lives. Sunday came with her biggest showing yet, and she completely lost it. She screamed at my autistic son for laughing while he drew with chalk. The people looking at her house saw the whole thing and asked the realtor about problems with neighbors. I told them calmly that she'd called the police on kids 53 times just this year. Memorial Day weekend, we had a support group picnic for special needs families with 15 kids playing. Mrs. Daniels called 911 about a riot, but the dispatcher wouldn't send anyone. Officer Martinez came by on his own time just to tell her she needed mental help. Her realtor fired her that week and said the house couldn't be sold. Her house finally sold 6 months later for $70,000 less to a foster family with 6 special needs kids. The police put her address on a do not respond list. Her lawyer dropped the lawsuit. She ended up stuck living next to exactly what she hated most, with no one willing to listen to her complaints anymore.